As some of you may know, alongside the podcast, I also run the How Does She Do It online membership community. And I have to say, it's become one of the things that I am most proud of in my career. It's a small, intimate, subscription-based community for women in business. And at its heart, it's about one thing: making sure that you never have to feel alone in running your business. Because if there's one thing I hear more than anything else, it's that running your own business can be incredibly isolating. The self-doubt, uncertainty, the days when you're not sure if you're doing the right thing, I've been there, and I know that so many of you have too. This membership offers a genuine support network, real women, real conversations, and real help when you need it. There's online networking, monthly guest expert masterclasses, business tools, accountability, support including online co-working, a brilliant WhatsApp community, and an incredible directory too. All in one place, all designed to help you not just survive in business, but truly thrive. This community is growing all of the time, and the energy within it honestly blows my mind on a regular basis. I'm watching women grow in confidence, push through their comfort zones, and build connections that genuinely change the way they feel about their businesses and themselves. If any of this resonates with you, and if you've been listening to this podcast thinking I could really do with a community like that, then I would absolutely love for you to come and find out more. You can find all the details in the show notes, and if you'd like to have a chat with me before you take the plunge, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. Warmly welcoming you to How Does She Do It, the podcast, with me, your host, Jo Ferroni. Join me on my journey as I explore finding a gentle balance in both business and life, because being kind to ourselves is our superpower. In today's episode, I chat with Michelle Ferron, the founder of Good Tuesday, a beautifully designed stationery brand built around a simple but powerful idea: that planning isn't just a productivity tool, it's a way of making space for things that matter most to you. Michelle's story is a wonderfully unconventional one. Growing up on the Caribbean island of St. Martin, studying in the Netherlands, and eventually finding herself in Cornwall, not entirely by design, her path to building a business was anything but linear, but created a rich foundation of layered experience, all of which feeds directly into what she's building today. We discuss how it all began with a single Etsy listing, running a values-led Corp-certified business, the reality of juggling a growing team of 10, including her life partner, whilst bringing up 3 children, all with a refreshing honesty about what works and what doesn't. Michelle also shares how being diagnosed with ADHD shaped the very heart of Good Tuesday's mission, and why the right planning tools can be genuinely life-changing, not just convenient. Enjoy the show. I just wanted to jump in before today's episode to say, if you've ever felt a little isolated as a business owner, or perhaps the logistics of getting to an in-person event is a bit much, then my online networking events might be just what you didn't know you needed. Taking place twice a month with one morning and one evening session, I adore bringing together like-minded, kind-hearted women in business just like you for real connection, generating opportunity and inspiration in equal measure. But don't just take my word for it. I'd love to share a variety of feedback from 3 of my online guests. The How Does She Do It online networking events are always beneficial. It's an amazing group of business owners all sharing openly, honestly and generously with each other, both the highs and the lows. That was from Catherine Pierce of Building Balance Services. I went into the call feeling frazzled and a little overwhelmed, and now I feel energized and uplifted because the group is just so positive and friendly. And that was from Dr. Beth Dawson. And finally, I was new to online networking and I wasn't sure what to expect, but I found it friendly, easy and interesting to meet so many women business owners. Lots of value. Thank you, Jo. That was from Jo Richards of Grey Card Creative. Details of all upcoming online networking events can be found at howdoesshedoit.life/networking, and you'll also find an easy link in the show notes too. I really hope to welcome you soon. Michelle, Welcome to the How Does She Do It podcast. It's so lovely to have you with me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a very windy day here in Cornwall, but, happy to be chatting to you. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today, and I feel that there's a really fascinating story to be uncovered as well. And I really love that I get to ask you about it without actually knowing what any of your answers are going to be. And so I get to hear exactly as my listeners get to hear as well. So, may I ask what came before the business, Good Tuesday? Have you always worked for yourself? What did you do before?
I have actually worked for myself quite a lot. I think naturally it's somewhere a direction I've grown into, but not always. So I studied commercial economics at university in the Netherlands, and I did that as it was a kind of work placement piece. So there was a lot of 6 months of work, and so I worked for Heineken in the Caribbean, helping them with marketing side of things, and also I worked for them for many years running events in the Caribbean. So, but that wasn't a full-time thing. And then I worked for 3 years in a lovely retail shop down here in Cornwall. I worked for a marketing agency prior to that. So my career has been very sort of scattered. I haven't had sort of one big corporate career. I worked for myself after that. I ran little workshops for small businesses. I worked with small businesses a lot. I ran a lot around social media training and email marketing and stuff like that. And just before COVID, I started a social media, paid media agency with a business partner called Will. And then not long after COVID happened, so we lost most of the clients, bar one really lovely, lovely client. And that was kind of the first push towards moving to this.
Wonderful. I'd just love to come back to a word you used there. You said about your experience or your career being quite scattered. I'd say enriched. It sounds amazing that you moved and experienced a variety of different things, actually, which I'm sure surely fed into what you're doing now so well.
Absolutely. I think that's the beauty of starting something a bit older in life, where you have all these different learnings from different places where you pull, learnings from. So I really feel that my starting this business in my late 30s was just a collection of layered pieces that I learned across the way. And I have been lucky to work with lots of small businesses and bigger businesses and just see lots of different things. Yeah, that all added up.
Yeah, and absolutely poured into what you then went on to do, and which you're doing now. Before we hear about the business as it is today, I'd love to ask, because you moved down to Cornwall, didn't you? Did the idea to relocate come before the business or the other way round?
Yeah, my story is not one of sort of traditional relocation. I'd never heard of Cornwall before. I lived on a small island in the Caribbean, but I met a man in the Caribbean who was sailing. I'm from a small island called St. Martin, and he was from Cornwall, and so I followed his career here. So he had a job here that I followed him to. Unfortunately, the relationship didn't last, but we did have a couple of children together. So that's how I ended up in Cornwall. So it wasn't really by choice. It's a natural progression. And now, of course, I love it here. It's great. It's a little colder than I'd like, but
Yeah, quite different from the Caribbean, I should think.
quite.
Um, but how interesting, actually, to think that you'd never even heard of Cornwall, and then you found yourself there, and you are still there today, and I'm sure absolutely loving all that it brings. And yeah, you just need
It's a
that little.
fantastic place. I've just been for a walk along the cliffs this morning before our talk. So yeah, it's a good place and full of really interesting people because it is a mixture of people who choose to come down here. Yeah, and of course locals, and yeah, a real mix.
Yeah, Oh, I love that. I know that you're going to already have made people think, gosh, I haven't been to Cornwall in a while. I'm really glad that she mentioned it. I'm going to have to get myself down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
many
mean,
of us.
don't let me glorify it too much because it's also super challenging. There's a real lack of diversity here, harsh winters. But I think wherever you find yourself, you you're bound to the some of those places without kind of choices. You always have choices, but when the choices are limited, you just have to look at the bright side, don't you, and try and find the positive. So yeah, it's not all glamour and glory, but it's a good place for sure.
That's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. I think that balance is really important, actually. So I'm really glad you pointed that out. So I've got to ask, where did the idea come from for Good Tuesday? And how did you come to launch the business and the brand?
Great question. I think in my previous life, I always, when I spoke with small business, we talked about a business plan, having a plan in place, 5-year plan, all of that. And this business started completely without plan. So it wasn't the way that one would usually think about it. And actually, I think that was a blessing in disguise. So I started by designing a birthday calendar, which is a calendar that every Dutch household has in their downstairs bathroom. And it is a perpetual one, so it stays there, and everyone close to you goes on this birthday calendar. And you see it on the toilet, and when you're on there, you're part of the inner circle. And it's just a handy piece to have in front of you rather than sort of Facebook reminders last minute. So I was looking for one and I couldn't find one that I liked, that matched my style. And so I designed one and I said to my partner, oh, shall I just print 10 at a local printer so to get the price down? And I put them on Etsy and I sold 7 overnight. So this was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And so then I carried on designing calendars, and including a 2021 calendar at the time. So this was during COVID, and it went completely viral and it went mad. And Etsy put it in their global newsletter, and yeah, so that was kind of a bit of a feasibility study and the first step towards then sort of going, okay, this is now potentially a business. Let's go.
I love that you'd always thought about, when I'm going to have a business and I'm going to create a business plan, and yet that one almost just happened.
Yeah,
How
absolutely. It's a great lesson that you don't always need to be fully prepared, but just get going. Yeah. As they always say, the lesson, but I've lived that in real life. Yeah.
I think that's a really valuable lesson for us all to hear, both my listeners and myself, actually. It can be tricky sometimes when we perhaps spend too long thinking about something and trying to get everything in the right place and have the plan ahead, and we've got to make sure we try and hit those targets and what have you. That can actually really get in the way sometimes of brilliant creativity. And so I love that you've shared that with us today, because I know that there will be people out there that are holding on to something because what if? But hopefully this message from you will encourage them to just give things a go, because you just never know how something is going to pan out.
No, absolutely. I think just I see that so much where people are like, holding themselves back because the logo isn't perfect, or they haven't decided on something. And of course, it's harder. If you're starting a cafe, for example, it's harder to sort of try it first. But there are ways. You can start cooking for friends and family, and there's different ways of just trying out. And I think sometimes the logo and so it doesn't need to be perfect. Just get going, try it, just start with the minimum viable product, as they say, the MVP, and just test it where you can. But I guess a lot of us are kind of our confidence get in the way, and also what will people think? What will people think if it fails? And I can say that I failed a few times in some of the businesses that I started, and actually it's okay to say when things aren't working. I think that's actually a really powerful thing, and to adjust and to turn. But yeah, just taking that first step is really hard. And I guess another point of being older, maybe you give less, when you
Yeah.
about what people think. But yeah, just get going, and yeah, that's definitely my advice. But test it, test it. And also be open and honest, because actually don't fight it. If it's not right, then also be open to adjust and shift, because not everything is going to work.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you can hold on for dear life because, you've put so much into it and surely, but it is about acknowledging, isn't it? And allowing, because I think you have proved that, you said some of your businesses didn't go so well, but they would have provided a stepping stone to what you're doing now. So they would have added value in many ways, I'm sure, just because they didn't, rock and roll like what you're doing now does. I would also really like to come back very quickly to what you said earlier about the age thing. And I really feel that I think I've said this a few times recently, I'm heading towards 50 at the moment. And I feel that I'm definitely allowing myself to recognize that I have learned a lot in my life and I'm going to apply some of that. And I'm also not going to worry so much about what others think anymore. Whereas I think I have spent all of my life, probably until the age of 46, 47, thinking, oh gosh, what is someone going to think? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to laugh at it? Are they going to think it's this or that? And there is something so very empowering when we allow ourselves to let that go. And I do think that, you're a great example. You're a little bit younger than me, but you have used that life wisdom to apply into what you're doing now. And you've just gone with it without worrying about everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I have worried about everyone else. Trust me, I worry. We all do, but it is, yeah, I also don't think it should stop younger people, because you don't, I guess the main thing is just about passionate and being passionate about what you're doing and wanting to spend the time. I think that's the key piece. And sometimes, when I've been in previous business ventures, I maybe just didn't love or didn't feel quite the passion. I thought this is what I want on paper, but maybe it really wasn't. The things that needed to do to make it success weren't really the things that came naturally to me. So I think for me now in this business, I'm so deeply passionate about it. And it's really interesting because my mum, a couple of years ago, found all of these old calendars that I made as a child. So every year I would make her a calendar with photos and drawings and all of that. So it's kind of, I would have never thought, oh, I make those, let's start a business out of that. But retrospectively tying those things together. So yeah, I think age is a benefit. I wouldn't have been able to run this business the way I do it now without that, having that experience, but potentially younger, I would have been able to run something else as long as I'd followed my passion rather than, I guess when I was younger, I thought I have to be more, I never, for example, Etsy, I wouldn't have thought that was a serious business place. It wouldn't have been somewhere where I could grow a business, where actually I did. It's not now the only place that we sell, but we still do. So I guess you just have to get out of your own way. And some people are much better at doing that younger. And for some of us, it just takes a while.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing a lot of young people these days who are following their passion and they've probably got a different personality from the personality I had as a younger person, and they don't allow things to get in their way. And, that passion just drives them. And it's incredible to witness and
Mm.
so inspiring to see as well. So I think that was a really good point you made there. It's not just these wonderful birthday calendars that you make now and sell. Could you give us an idea of the range of products that you sell? Because I am a massive stationery fan and I absolutely adore everything that you make, and your Instagram and your website is just so bubbly and fizzy and it just draws me in. But I also run an online membership for female business owners, and I know that I'm not the only person who is quite addicted to stationery. So it would be really great if you could tell us a little bit more about what you offer, because I want this to be, a visibility platform for you today.
Yeah. So I guess it comes back to the mission of the business. What we do is we make tools to help people plan, to help them plan for the life that they want to live. Right. So planning is what we're all about. And that comes from, I'm diagnosed with ADHD. planning has always been, it's something that has helped me succeed in life. I have to write things down, get them out of my head. Anyone with ADHD will probably also recognize that list making desire and need. And so that has been a driver for me. I want to help people with tools that are also beautiful. And so that's how our range developed. So calendars are one of the first products that we designed and still very much at the core of what we do. So we do all sorts of calendars. We work with artists on some of them, and a lot of them we design ourselves. We also do big wall planners, so to see the whole year on the wall. And then we have lots of planner pads, so weekly, daily, to-do lists, notebooks, mainly paper-based, but we also have some wipeable things from the fridge. And I guess, yeah, always going back to that planning piece. And you know what the thing is that I've learned over time is that everyone has kind of a different planning ecosystem, and everyone works differently in how they organize their life and their thoughts. So we try and think about that in the widest sense possible, and make something that everyone can buy into for their planning.
Yeah, I really love that you're helping people with that functionality in their life, but you have got such cool designs and colors, for anyone that is drawn to, bright colors which uplift and invigorate us whilst we're going about what quite often are packed lives. It's just an award-winning combination, I think. And as you were talking about the planners and what have you, and also the desk ones that people can write on and have those daily to-dos and what have you. I'm having names ping into my mind from my membership who are absolutely going to lap this up. If they haven't already heard of you, they will absolutely be on your website after this conversation today. Now, obviously, from those 7 Etsy sales that night, which must have been so exciting, things have moved on apace, and the business has grown an awful lot in so many ways, and we're going to come on to some of those ways shortly. But I note that you run the business with your partner now, and I would absolutely love to know. I work quite closely with my husband, and I'm always quite intrigued to hear how that works. So, do you work very closely on all the areas of the business, or do you perhaps have complementary business strengths to one another, which means that one of you's covering this area whilst another's covering the other? How does it work?
Yeah, I think it's not been a static story. So Angus joined the business sort of when, I mean, initially he started by when I was posting from home, and it was getting so much I couldn't carry it to the post office anymore, and he was putting all the bags in the back of his van and or his car at the time, and meeting the postman so that I wouldn't have to go through the post office. So uh, initially he just came with a really good help, and then set up our new little warehouse that we moved into, and then sort of transitioned into bringing in wholesale into the business. So he took on that side. So obviously we started as an online business and then ventured into that. So, through trade shows and retailers. So he was doing that in his previous job. So that became one part of the business, and then transitioned into finance and all of the books, anything around the accounts, books, finance, and that's really where he spends most of his time now, and still oversees the wholesale function. He was also very heavily involved in operations, and we've now got operations manager in place who's taken a lot of those bits off both of our plates, which is fantastic. And so it's a kind of a transitional thing, and I guess there are certain parts which each of us just fully take care of, and then there's certain parts where it's a lot of overlap. So, the creative is on my plate very much, and a lot of the marketing. But I guess things like finances is a dialogue. But Angus definitely oversees that now. So yeah, it's definitely a divide, but we talk a lot, and we run almost everything through each other. But yeah, you have to divide and conquer, don't you?
Yeah, you really do. And like you say, you've taken on a team now as well, because
Yeah,
it's very much not just the two of you, is it?
right. Right. No, we are. We're a nice bunch of people now. We're a team. We've got 10 of us in the office. So, yeah.
That's really wonderful. I must admit, from your notes and from what I've seen on your website as well, it really comes across what a lovely employer you are. And I'm not trying to, lovely sounds a bit sort of soft, but actually I feel a warmth. I feel a real strength of connection between you as well from the words that I've read from you, and I think that that counts for so much, and it must emanate throughout the business. You know, you're clearly a close-knit team who really respect one another, and we're going to talk a little bit about the mission and the values shortly as well. I think it comes across really strongly, which is really so heartening to see.
Thank you. For me, just the main thing is I like to come to work and feel good about it and have a nice place to come to. And that means I take on a lot of emotion from other people. I want just it to be a place where everyone is feeling, not happy all the time, but most of the time, and achieving. And because that's what everyone wants who comes to work. So I guess I try and build foundation around that. I don't get it right all the time. I'm also a hormonal woman, so there's days when, but yeah, we do try and really make sure that everyone is supportive and that the right people are in the space with us. Yeah. And that we are the right people to make that happen.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're human beings at the end of the day, and that means that we ebb and flow, doesn't it? And some days we're going to deal with something so much better than other days, and that's absolutely okay. I think if you've got a really lovely team spirit and you look after your team so well, then I don't think that ever is going to be an issue, actually.
Yeah, we try. Absolutely. It's super important for me. I would feel very, I guess that's just the nature. It does mean sometimes, I've spent a lot of time, worrying about people and making sure everyone's okay. And but I also know that they're actually super capable humans, and they will tell me also when they're not okay. So no, we're really lucky. But it is, I really highly believe in having a good working relationship, a safe space, dialogue, and just putting yourself in other people's shoes as an employer and just treating people the way that they should be treated. But yeah, and it comes, there's boundaries within the workspace. But yeah, for everyone, they're just there trying their best, aren't they? So yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you're a parent as well as a business owner. I would love for you to speak a little bit about how you manage those two roles. And, you've already spoken about how, life isn't always, perfect and rocking along happily, you're not skipping along all the time. But how do those two roles kind of entwine? Does it work well? Do you face struggles?
It's great question. No, it doesn't work well all the time, but we try our best. Running a business, running a team, and also together with my life partner it's a lot. And we have 3 children between us. So I've got 2 teenagers and 15, 13, and a 4-year-old. So it's kind of a big spread with lots of dynamics and lots of needs. And yeah, there's times when we do it well, and there's times when we just are, one of them is not getting the attention that they need. So it's just trying to balance it. So, but it's not easy. It takes energy, and I know that the only and the best way to do it is to look after myself first. So if I'm exercising, if I'm eating well, if I'm sleeping well, I'm going to show up in the best way for both work and the family. So, but yeah, we don't always get it right. We just, yeah, you muddle along, and I think it's different phases. And I think we all have to remember it's not static. Things change. There's different seasons of life. There's different seasons that we flow through. And I guess consciousness, just really being aware of it when it's not going well, and trying to, again, this is where my the power of planning for me comes in. Planning the times that are necessary. So the times that you do want to spend time being a parent, blocking the calendar out for those times. And also sometimes saying, well, actually, now I need to be at work. I'm going to work until, on a couple of days ago, I worked till 9 in the evening, just so I knew that I had my plate clear. I had a few things I just had to get off my plate. And the next day I was just a better parent because I'd got these things done, and I'm not going to feel guilty about missing one evening, because I know I'm going to balance it out. So it's a constant challenge, but very lucky to have all of those things in my life.
Thank you for sharing that. That's so refreshing to hear, such openness and honesty. And I really love that you spoke there about how you can have to be working until late at night, but then that next day, because you have cleared the decks, you are going to be so much more present and so much more there, I guess. And that's really wonderful because you've given yourself permission there to accept that you can't do it all. And we're going to talk about that towards the end of this conversation, because I think it's really important. And what you shared there, I think, is gorgeous for my listeners to hear, because they are going to go onto your website and they're going to see a very powerful, very successful and brilliant brand. And it could be so easy for them or for you to have answered that question by saying, it's great, we make it work, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, always flows perfectly. And what I love is that you've shared reality, and that's going to really offer comfort and a really great understanding for my listeners. So thank you. And I can't imagine. I have two boys, and I get it wrong at times. I get it right at times as well. I don't think I could manage any more than two. So I take my hat off to you for that juggle, and having a younger one as well with teenagers too. And I think that you've mentioned twice now when you were talking about the business, but then just now when you were talking about parenting and your children as well, you mentioned that nothing's static. And that's really resonated with me. And I want to kind of shine a little bit of a light on it for people who perhaps are feeling stuck right now, or they just don't know which way to turn because they've got so many things on their plate. This isn't going to be how you feel forever. And I think that, Michelle, what you have given us there across those two examples is really a brilliant learning for people. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I think if you can really reflect on the moment that you're in, and one of the ways that we approach business and that I approach life is this concept of marginal gains. If you've not read it, the book Atomic Habits is a great read. This concept of if you get 1% better every day, you're 38% better at the end of the year. Not that you have to get better every day, because some days you're not, but ultimately everything can change if you take the small steps that need to get there. So it's about that breaking down of what is there and what is here, and what are the tiny steps every day that you can take, and have vision, clarity on that. And I think that comes by spending time with yourself and planning and thinking and writing it down. And and I see that with parenting as well, just planning in little bits. For me, one of the big things I use is my big wall planner, and I make sure I have a weekend with just the teenage girls planned in. And I know we do that every year, and it's just a lovely little getaway. And also just planning little times, special times. A lot of it's quality over quantity in that parenting piece. But I think feeling stuck is something we all, and really feeling in the moment like, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this situation? But I think with age, you realize, it just is going to keep moving if you like it or not. So then trying to steer the ship a little, with little small steps.
Brilliant advice there. And that accumulative effect of those small steps is actually huge. And I think that anyone that does think, oh, what's the difference? What difference is it going to make if I just do a little bit every day? Like you said about Atomic Habits, which, yes, is an amazing book. And The Slight Edge as well is, works in a similar way. But, if you've only got time to just do a little thing every day, just trust in that. Trust that is enough. And actually, it will make more of a difference than you can even begin to imagine. Now, I absolutely adore that you share about being a mission-driven business, okay? You are aiming to help people plan their time well so they can make space for the things that matter most to them. Can you tell us a little bit about where that mission came from and also how you got to be B Corp certified? Because that is a real feat indeed. I'd love for you to share a little bit more there.
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. When we first started the business, it was, oh, we make lovely stationery, but actually tying it all back to what I fundamentally believe in is, and you can see in what I've just talked about, is that planning is really the only way, or is the way for me to achieve things in life. And some of the achievements I talk about are family time, the things that are important to you. And I think different things can be important to different people. Not everyone values time away from work. Some people want to spend more time at work. Some people want to, everyone has their own thing that they want to do. And I think that's fine. I think sometimes the narrative is so much about what you should want, and it's not always that. But I know that planning is one of the things that holds a lot of people back by not having planned for things. So yeah, I think that's the way I believe I can help people in the world a tiny bit by giving them the tools to do that. So, and it's really having that mission. I did a course last year with Oxford, at Oxford University, and I was really lucky to go back to school, and it was a fantastic time, and it really helped me hone in on that mission. There was a fantastic lecturer there who really helped us put that in place. So, and it's given me real clarity on the direction of the business, because, for businesses, it's really easy to get distracted by lots of lovely, shiny things. We've got lovely prints and patterns. We can start putting them on tea towels and mugs and stuff like that. But actually, we are really clear. We want to focus on planning and helping people with that, and taking the fluff out of it, and helping people get clarity. And, it's not the full picture. It's just one small part of that, but it's a tool. And then that ties in, I guess, the B Corp. I've always wanted to use business as a force for good. I'm a complete hypocrite because I also think that business and commerce and capitalism has been a huge issue in the world. So I guess trying to find a way to balance that out. And I'm passionate about making sure that we're not just adding noise to the world. And B Corp, I think, is a really great guideline to that. So B Corp is about looking through the sustainability lens, but it's also about the people, the communities, the structure in which you do business. So it's not just that sustainability piece, although that is really important, but it's also how you stand as a business in the wider world. And it's just a really good framework to follow for a business like ours.
Definitely. I thought it was just the sustainability piece, actually, and just is not the right word to use there, because that is huge and so important. But that's really interesting that there is that other part to it, which I just think, you've got in spades. And I should imagine that when they were assessing you for this, there was no question whatsoever that you ticked all the boxes. Now, I know that we have all sorts of business owners who tune into the podcast, and I thought it'd be really great today to ask you if you might offer 3 tips to someone who perhaps wants to build a value-led business like you have done so brilliantly.
I think running a values-led business, first of all, I think the main thing is it has to come from your values. So the first thing is to really understand what are your values and what are not your values. I think that's also okay to understand what they are. And then really spending some time thinking about that and putting those things down on paper, and then thinking more widely, well, how does that tie into all of the other elements I'm doing? Sort of, what does that mean for my supply chain? What does it mean with the partners that I work with? What does it mean where I bank, what bank I bank with? What do those things matter? Do they not matter? So those are kind of just sitting down and thinking about that. And then the second thing would be to surround yourself with people who have the same values. I think that's the only way to keep that journey moving. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be questioned, because we should always people should always question what we're doing and why we're doing it. But that's a really helpful way of doing it. And then finding a framework like B Corp is really helpful, because as we might think we understand how our values tie into the actions that we take, but actually B Corp is a company that's done research in it. All of their criteria will have been based on sort of foundations. And for us, I always started the business with my values at its core, but B Corp showed me some of those things that actually really matter and have impact. So those frameworks are really helpful. So yeah, I think those are my 3 tips.
That's wonderful. I especially liked number 1, and the reason that I think that really stood out was you said about people to sort of write down what their values are. And that means that people need to just pause for a minute. I do think that, when someone gets an idea for something, they can get so excited and start running with it. But I think it's really important to take that time to get still and really go inward and really dig deep to be sure, right? These are my values. This isn't what I think everyone else wants to hear. This is how I feel. And I think that is where you've just showcased brilliantly how deep running values and a mission in a business can be and can really pay off as well. So they were 3 brilliant tips. Thank you so much for sharing those. So I've got to ask you, what is the toughest thing about working for yourself, Michelle?
It's pretty brutal. I don't think there's a single toughest thing in running a business, but it is tough. It takes resilience. It takes constant knocking down in many little ways. I think some people will find the knockdowns in other areas than others. So I'm, very emotionally driven. I think about that softer side of things. So that confrontation or, people issues, that really knocks me heavily. I find I really take those things on. But obviously, finance, money, mistakes, unfairness of people, a negative review. Like, there's so much constant confrontation in running a business, and because it's not just your business, but it's you, right? There's no barrier there, so everything is taken on, and then also your bank account, of course. Is the money coming in? Can I afford to, pay the mortgage or whatnot? So it takes a real dedication and work. And I think this is the thing that one has to realize. Most people running a business, they work a lot and they think about work a lot. And almost every business owner that I know, and I know quite a few now through my Oxford. Luckily, this course had 70 other business owners on it. So actually surrounding myself with those people is really interesting. But, we all don't have that balance of not working a lot. And again, I don't think that's static. That's certain parts in your business. You just get your head down and work. And sometimes that's going to feel like, oh, why am I always working? Why is this, is this my life? But unfortunately, sometimes that's how it goes. I'm not saying other people can't do it differently, but that's my experience, is that, and that's where that passion comes in. You kind of really have to, I love it. So not always, it's also brutal because I have to do the stuff that I don't want to do, but I have to do that to get to the thing. So yeah, it's a lot. It's stressful. Almost every business owner, and especially female business owners, but also, across the board, experience burnout. Almost everyone on my course of those 70 people have experienced a form of burnout. So including myself. So it's, it's tough, but it's also great. So it's, a bit like parenting, really.
Well, exactly. And we're double whammying it with both. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's so valuable for others to hear. I hear you. It's so constant, but your resilience is clearly up there. which is wonderful. And I'm going to take you on now. I'm going to take you away from the toughest. And I would love if you can narrow it down to one to share the best thing about working for yourself.
I would say, when people think about what the best thing is working for themselves, it's the freedom. But actually, I'm not sure freedom is the right word, because all of a sudden you're not free at all anymore, because you have to spend this time to keep things moving. And that really relies on you. So I think freedom is definitely not the best thing about it, because that disappears pretty quickly. Sorry to say. Of course, there are certain freedoms, which, it is great. But it's the best thing, I guess, to be able to make decisions for yourself, choose the direction. I love being able to think of the big picture and then also get down to doing the little things. So yeah, there's not one best thing, but I guess naturally I'm just driven to working for myself, and I'm really lucky that I have been able to build a great team, and also working with my partner, of course, doing it together. So yeah, I don't think there's one best thing. It's like any direction you choose to, there's always pros and cons. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I really like that. And it's really interesting what you said there about freedom, because yes, there are pockets of freedom that we have when we're doing our own thing, as opposed to perhaps working for someone else. But you're not completely free, as you've alluded to, throughout this conversation. It's a big thing. It's all encompassing. I don't think you're the first one also to say that the best thing is about, you're making your own decisions. It's really empowering, actually, to know that it is your thing and you decide. And yeah, quite right too. Well done. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, before we close today, I've got to ask you to tell us where we can find you online.
Yeah, we are on goodtuesday.com, and obviously on social media. So at Instagram, Good Tuesday, and yeah, lots of other places. Just search us up, but those are the main ones where you can find us. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I know that I'm going to end our conversation in a minute and just go and have a little shop over on Good Tuesday, because it's funny, when I first discovered you, I was just so taken with it all. And I was like, oh my God, I want everything. So I thought I'd let it settle and I would come back to it. And of course, now that I've spoken with you today and I've got to meet you, I'm very excited to go and indulge. And yeah, you've really sold the planning side of things to me again, because I was always a planner. I had all sorts of planning books, which worked really well. I didn't just buy them and then they sat on the shelf. They worked really, really well. And that was before children and before I ran my own business. And I've kind of lost that over the last decade or so, actually. And it now feels like the right time to really get planning again, because I love to write as well. So yeah, you've spoken to me in so many ways today, and I thank you for that. It's been a wonderful conversation. I have appreciated your honesty, your sharing of the ups and the downs of what you do, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Jill. It's been great.
Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, I'd love you to take a moment to share and subscribe too. Come and join me over at How Does She Do It Life on both Facebook and Instagram. And until we speak again, I wish you a wonderful week ahead.